had a number of people email at the last minute to say, for one reason or another, childcare issues or sickness in schools or just sheer time evaporating, they're moving to the online presence tonight rather than in person, which is such a shame because it's just so lovely to be here. And they're missing out on that, but aren't we lucky? If you could tell us when we're live, Lawrence, that would be good. And Dale, you're okay to have your... Thank you very much, Lawrence. Well, I'd just like to say a big welcome to everybody sitting around this table and how good it is to see you all, real people, real communication, and also welcome everybody who's online. And that includes Shanaz and Paul and Ila, and I think there are possibly is Karen as well, Rajneesh. You are all most welcome. I hope everyone has the paperwork, the required paperwork in front of you. Before I do anything else, I'm just wondering whether Katie Dickens is going to be online with us.
I think she said she would join later. I think she's running a network meeting until 5. Okay. So she will obviously have to jump from one to the other. And obviously if anybody stays on and asks her any questions, she won't get out that quickly. Okay. Well, Katie is the person who's been appointed to replace Anne, who's meeting. This is the last SACRE meeting with the Royal Borough. And so I hope at some point we'll actually have a chance to say hello to Katie so that you're introduced and you can see what she looks like. She's a very experienced primary head teacher, I understand, so it's great that she's going to be joining us. Yeah. And I'd also like to introduce Shadia, is that correct pronunciation? Anderson, who's head of RE at Windsor Girls' School. So I'm really, really pleased that you've come to spend these 2 hours with us, Shadia, and I hope that you find this meeting of some interest. I have to say, like all meetings, you only get out of them what you put in. And my mission in life is to try and make sure everybody puts something in so that it becomes a meeting that's alive and relevant. But you're more than welcome to join us. And if there's anything that you can't see, just shout. We'll pass things round if need be. Okay. Could we have any apologies for absence, please, Lawrence?
I think interesting note, I don't think I received apologies apart from Laura stating that she's going to attend late. Do you want to introduce?
Yes, I think it would be appropriate at this point. So I'm Karen Butler. I'm the chair of SACRE. And welcome Richard, who's just sneaking in unobtrusively.
It was unobtrusive till you noticed.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. We can go round this way. Anne,
right. I'm Anne Andrews. I'm the advisor to SACRE currently.
I'm Barbara Meany. I'm vice chair and also a teacher.
I'm Councillor Kashmir Singh, member of the panel.
I'm Anthony Lewis, representing Humanism, and I do apologise. I'll have to slip out at 6. I haven't done very well at managing my diary, so I do apologise.
I'm Vicky Davidson. I'm the Methodist minister at Windsor.
I'm Michael Gamage. I'm the Baha'i representative.
I'm Tom Kingsley Jones. I'm the head of humanities at Churchmead School.
Maureen Miller, the head of RE at Charter School and the Academy on this.
I'm Margaret Smith, representing Quakers.
Shadia Anderson, Windsor Girls' School, head of RE.
I'm Chris Sayers and I represent the Buddhists. I'm Dale Resnick and I represent the Jewish faith. I'm also a teacher.
I'm Helen Strilly and I work for Children for Children. I'm here representing local authority.
Lauren Sedis, Democrat, says I'm the clerk to the SACRE meeting.
I'm Rachel Beaumont. I'm the RE lead at Eton Horney, but I'm actually the Church of England representative.
I'm Richard Kerr, one of the councillors for RBWM.
That's great. And if we have some introductions online, Ela, we can see you. You're here as. Oh, you need to unmute, Ela. You're unmuted.
Hi everyone, sorry that I'm not able to be there today. But I represent the Hindu community and faith.
Thank you very much. Shanaz?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I can't be there as well. The month of fasting has started, so that's why I'm not there. I'm the RE lead at Riverside Primary School and obviously part of the SACRE team.
Great, thank you. Paul?
Hello, I'm very thankful that I can actually be online with you today, otherwise I wouldn't be here at all. So I'm Paul, I'm the Vicar of All Saints Church in Dedworth, the Church of England.
Thank you very much, Paul. Rajneesh, could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, hi, good afternoon. My name is Rajneesh Kashyap. I represent Hindu communities. At the same time, we manage as one of the biggest temple in Southall, Middlesex. So we are part of larger community here. Thank you
very much. Thank you, Rajneesh. I'm wondering if Karen is available to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Karen Waller. I'm head teacher at Eton First School. I'm representing the head teachers at SACRE.
Great, thanks, Karen. Good to see you with us. And Katie, I believe, has joined us.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Sorry I can't be with you. I was delivering training until 5 o'clock online. Hopefully meet you in person at some point, but I'm taking over from Anne and looking forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Great, you've done really well to get here in 10 minutes. That's smashing. I don't think I've missed anybody else out. I think that's not bad actually, one way or another. We've got quite a good representation. So, and you, of course, Shadi, would know Paul, I guess.
Yes.
He has dealings with your school.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Paul is part of our chaplaincy team, and he also works alongside with us for the big questions and other faith matters as well as being a parent as well.
I'm really interested in the chaplaincy, and I'm sure, Tom, you are as well, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots to talk about. Thank you. Great. So, sorry I've cut 10 minutes off your time, Dale. For those of us who weren't here earlier, and anyway, for those of us who were, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us host here. It's lovely. Being one of the smaller faith groups that are out there, 0.2% of the world, if we're going statistically, which is 0.5% in Britain. So slightly large community here, fifth largest Jewish population in the world, but still tiny. And I think that's the thing that we often forget in our classrooms, and our students often get a really warped sense of, especially with the amount of media coverage that Jewish people somehow get, which we don't always want, but we are often in there, we're often mentioned, and it's this question that students go, well, there's loads, and you go, how many do you think there are? And they come up with wild numbers, and actually, there really aren't that many of us. So it's really nice that we're able to host you, actually, welcoming and let you know a bit about us, because it doesn't often happen. I think as an ethno-religion as well, there's a real trouble with understanding that for a lot of people. And actually, we were having a conversation earlier for those who weren't here, but about the fact that it's not about whether you believe a lot of the time, especially in a reform setting like we're in now. A lot of the time it's about your family history and your DNA, and that's enough for us. When they do DNA background testing, one of the few groups to ever come back 100% has been Jewish people who come back 100% Ashkenazi Jew, and they go, how are you 100% one thing? And it's because of our cultural roots and the way in which we've traveled. But even Indian Jews and British Jews, 75% of their DNA is shared. It's this huge majority, and we can look totally different, and you would not pick us out in the street and say those three people are, but they have so much shared DNA. And it's, the NHS, even if we go to them, 1 in every 400 people have the BRCA gene, but for Ashkenazi Jews, it's 1 in 40. And they've done genetic testing on Ashkenazi Jews and gone, there is a DNA difference. It's not just we believe something different and therefore we go and pray on a Saturday and therefore we're different to Christians. It's in our blood who we are. And I think it's something that is massively missed in the media, in the general populace, but in schools as well, where we put it in the RE curriculum and we go, where do Jews come from? And we go, 1 minute, actually, this isn't actually an RE question. It's not about religion or belief right now, because it's ethnicity. And I think it's really important that we focus on that, especially at the minute. One of the statistics that I was introduced the other day that I didn't even know, but for the Kohanim, who were the high priests in the ancient temples, for Jews, especially in the Orthodox, the Reform less so because of the power structure that we don't really look at. But in the Orthodox, they still have the Kohanim and the priestly blessing. And so in your Hebrew name, you're aware which of the tribes you go back to. And for the Kohens, they've done genetic testing, and 78% of Kohanim share one male ancestor between all of them. It is the same person they trace back to, and it's something that is passed down through your family root. So I know as a Kohen, my father was a Kohen, his father was a Kohen, and I can go back the whole way to the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70 with that same line. And I think that's a powerful statistic to tell students, and to go, 1 minute, that's not what I thought about RE at all. And that conception of it changes how you look at things, because it's not just believing in the Ten Commandments and all of those things that are central, but actually, we were talking about this earlier for those who weren't here, but this is a community hub. This isn't just a synagogue. There are 3 different classes for Hebrew education tonight. There's an adult education on Judaism tonight. There is English education for you Ukrainian refugees that we've been doing since the war there. There is so much happening in this building outside of the prayer. And on a Sunday, we're educating. We're involved in Mitzvah Day, where we get loads of local authorities, and the mayor was here a few months ago for that. It's not even connected to the religious side. It's just the way of Jewish life that's so integral. And I did some voice, because I work here on a Sunday, and I said to the Jewish students, I said, tell me what it's like being in your schools, being in this borough. And I said, look, I'm meeting some people in a few weeks' time, and trying to explain that to a 13-year-old's always fun. But I said, like, I'm meeting these people, and I want them to hear from you. You know, we're here for the children. At the end of the day, it's an educational thing. And I said, tell me. And they said, well, what do you want to know? And I said, well, okay, what's it like being the only Jew in your school, in a non-Jewish school? And one girl straight away said, well, I was kept back in class yesterday. And I said, what do you mean you were kept back? And the teacher had said to the class, what religion are you? And she said, Jewish. And she was kept back at the end. And the teacher said to her, was that a joke? She went, what? And the fact you're Jewish. And she went, it's not a joke. And the teacher was shocked that a non-white student could be Jewish. And I thought that was shocking, but the reality, they said that they wish that their teachers knew about Jewish history and culture, that they feel like their peers and their teachers reduce it to the Holocaust and then move on. That's the time that they feel they're reflected in the curriculum. They said to me that there's a lack of knowledge about Jews, that some of the kids turned around and went, oh, no one in my school even knows I'm Jewish, and I prefer that, because I've heard what they say, rather they didn't. And that's in our local area. I've had it, and statistically across at the minute, I don't like to go there, I think, but we need to in terms of anti-Semitism at the minute. The record from January to June last year, the most recent statistics, went up to 1,978 anti-Jewish hate incidents in the UK, which was up from the first half of 2023 from 964. So a huge increase we're seeing in it. In terms of that, though, for us in education, 51 of those incidents were children not in school, but on their way to or from. And 81 of them were school children at non-faith schools, at just state schools, where these incidents were happening, with over 162 of those, an increase of 119% from the year before. So I think in terms of when we're talking about curriculum, when we're talking about what we're planning in the syllabuses, we have to think about, okay, there may not be many Jews in this country, but there's a lot of anti-Semites. And actually, that's not something for the Jewish community to do. That's not something that we're going to sit behind our gates in the synagogue and deal with. That actually, that's the job of people like the SACRE and the councils to go, okay, we've seen that those statistics are there, and then responding it to our classrooms. We talk about reflecting our students, and I 100% agree with that and the power of it. But I think we also have to think the time we are living in and what students need to know. And actually, the things that we don't teach, they learn online. 314 of these incidents were online, on TikTok, on Instagram, and a massive presence for our students goes, well, if they don't learn it in school, if they don't learn it in the RE curriculum we plan, they're going to get that information somewhere else, and it's not going to be an accurate reflection. And I think it's powerful for us sat here today to reflect on that and think, actually, what are the decisions we are making? What's the impact of them going to be? Because it can be that difference between 1 minute we've managed to reach that student who had that concept. Barbara doesn't mind me. We work together, and I quite often come up to the RE department and help out where I can when we're doing the Judaism content because I'm willing to. But we did Q&As with year 11s. This was last year. And some of the questions, we said, look, what would you like to know about this? What are you struggling with in the GCSE? And they start by talking about festivals. They start by asking about why Passover, why Pesach, what's important about it? And we talk about the Exodus. We talk about Moses and how that bonded the people of Israel together. But then they come up with the things they see on TikTok. And they ask those questions and they were, I won't go into them now, but that some of them were very anti-Semitic. And we just turned to them and we had that conversation just openly and honestly with them.
I think sometimes they don't realise, do they,
that
no, they're being
they weren't trying to be. They just went, I've seen this thing. What's that? And we go, okay, what you've seen is this, but we took them through it. I think what's really important is that actually there aren't many Jewish teachers because there aren't many Jewish people, and therefore we can't rely on Jews to be there to call that out. We have to rely on our teachers and the curriculums we build to enable that conversation, to enable our students to reflect. And they were brilliant. They weren't intending to be offensive when they asked it, but once we had the conversation, we openly discussed it, they went, oh, okay, I understand where that's come from. And they really were really good about it. That's not a complaint about our students at all. But for me, and having the platform and the ability to talk today, it's something I do want to make very apparent to us all, is that actually, if that's not in your syllabus, if there's not a space to question and not a space to learn that, where will that go? And then it becomes the known thing because it's never been questioned. And I think we need to be aware of that as we plan. One of the reports that came out from CST was that the only place in the whole of the first 6 months of the UK that didn't have a report of anything anti-Semitic was in Lincolnshire. Other than that, the UK had it. There aren't many Jews in most of the UK again, but there still are these incidents. We had it in our school again, where there was a drawing that was done by a student that was wildly anti-Semitic. They just drew it one day as a doodle. And I sat with them, I spoke them through what they'd done. It wasn't aimed at anyone, but there was still that anti-Semitism present. And I think part of what we're doing with the new curriculums being written very much needs to think about actually the issues we are seeing in this borough, in the UK, in the present context, and going, we need to do something about that to stop it. And that's a duty we have for Jewish people, and to take it back to sort of being here. We are a people of history and culture. So much as well as faith. Every chair you are sat on has a plaque and is a memorial to someone, because memorial to us is the most important thing. We are named for our dead, never for our living. I'm named for my great-grandmother who passed just before I was born, because that's the way things are done. You're named after those who have died. And it's a cycle of memory and history. Every festival we have, Purim is next week. It's the defeat of the Babylonians. We talk about Haman, who tried to kill the Jews and failed. We celebrate that because we still live. And Judaism is a celebration of life, but at the same time, a mirror onto the lives we have led and the history we have had as a people. That's where I would wrap up.
That's great. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask, or comments or reflections?
Yes, sort of in our borough, in West Berkshire as well. What sort of depths do they actually teach Judaism at present?
At present,
or is it just sort of glossing over?
I think.
I mean, the questions on the new syllabus are actually designed to answer some of those issues that you've raised about memorial and remembering, and where Jewish people come from, and the fact that Jewish people look different. So that's why there's the questions about different branches of Judaism. It's and then in Key Stage, so that's in the primary school, and then in Key Stage 3, there's the sort of more the more philosophical approach, simply because you can't fit everything in. but a lot of schools will still continue to teach Judaism. And the one thing we must remember is that no matter what we put out in the syllabus, we also have to be realistic that most schools will carry on doing exactly what they've been doing for the last years and probably not change that much of it. So, you know, there are opportunities through all of the questions in the syllabus, hopefully, to begin to address some of these issues at some level. But as Dale said, we haven't got teachers who know this material. So what we could really do with is actually some exemplification of how these questions might work.
And I think part of it's the wording of the questions, though. I think some of them still are quite worrisome. You know, I think there's one and they're still on focusing on Abraham. But there's
the suggested content
but
does, but it is only suggested content. So actually, if that could be exemplified for us with some different content, then that could go in as an additional.
You know, for example, the phrase "children of Israel" that I know was in the syllabus that then came out is quite a central one that I know some of the other Jewish reps are still.
I know, and the thing is, the suggested content could not have everything in it.
Yeah, but I think the key question of Jewish identity and going back to those contemporary issues, you know, the main time we see these spikes in anti-Semitism are when there is conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And Israel comes up and it becomes a problem. But then what's the way we can address that? Well, is actually making sure that children of Israel as a term students need to understand that that's more than just suggested content. That is our identity, that it comes from the name of Jacob, that it is where the Jewish people are from. They're called Jews because they came from Judea. That's not a coincidence. But if that's not in our syllabus, if that's not in our curriculum, then when do students learn that? The answer is never, because the media is not going to put that in there. You know,
Dale, if you can give me some wording that is very short and simple that I can add into that one question.
There's a challenge.
Which isn't because our designer is still working on this.
Yes, you could slip that in.
So we can slip that in, because what you've given me is you've given me a positive construction for how we move that forward, and that's what's been missing.
Could I just
not from
interject
you?
at
I
this
hasten
point?
to add.
Ela, you have your hand up. Is there a question you'd like to ask?
No, it's just an information that I've been to the synagogue quite a few times, and I was there at Mitzvah Day, and we had a few other members from the community, and I was with Dale, with his students, and it was a wonderful event, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from the students, just as much as the students learned from me, and it was a lovely event. So thank you, Dale, because I haven't seen you since then.
That's great. Thank you for telling us about that. That's really interesting.
Brilliant.
It's almost half past, time to crack on, unless there's any other comment or question from anyone sitting around the table. Dale, you're a huge resource. I wish you worked in the Royal Borough. You know, we'll have to work on that one. But you know, you're on SACRE, and thank you for everything that you've given us already this evening by welcoming us here and teaching us all so much about this place and how it works. It's a very special community. Thank you. That's great.
And just before we move on, I mean, some of us have read up on Judaism, what we've learned, but it's very scant, like you're saying. A lot of the terminology, whether you grew up here, born here, and so on, the inferences that they would have that you pick up. Now it's all online. That's why I actually asked the question: how do they teach it, and to sort of what depth, if any, or is it just scratching the surface? So people have a basic understanding of Judaism.
Definitely, and I think that's the thing that we're trying to address. But how do you address that sufficiently in a curriculum that is already strapped with RE? How much curriculum time is there for RE as a whole? You know, that's really
in most
difficult.
schools, it's an hour. It's an hour a week
Exactly.
if you're lucky.
And so, how do we do that in a way?
Is there nothing at the moment? I mean, from what I know from my.
It's there.
It is.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
there,
taught.
but it's a lot of the time in curriculums. It's an optional. Do we do Judaism? GCSE. It's always, do we do Judaism or do we do Islam? And a lot of students in schools go
do Islam.
because we have more Islamic than Muslim students, and that makes sense. But then there's that question of actually, and I know Barbara and I have discussed it because we teach Judaism at our school, and the rationale for that is Catholic school, Old Testament links through, and the students, have that understanding of it, where all the Abrahamic faiths come from, going back in terms of chronology. Judaism existed prior to the others. Therefore, a lot of the others you see similarities and parallels in when you're teaching it. And when you're teaching about Pesach and the Passover, we've mentioned a few times today, but being able to teach that and then go into your Catholic Christianity and talk about the Last Supper in a way that is so much more informed for the students to understand, well, why was Jesus gathered with all of these people having a meal? Is that, well, actually, he was performing a Jewish ritual that has been done for thousands of years and still is. And for the students to have an understanding of that is so much more enlightening to their own Catholicism in a Catholic school.
I think that would be brilliant if that actually something like that came out, something basic like that.
And that's one of those things of the more we can teach Judaism, it's going back to how Abrahamic faiths developed. The core of Abraham, he was a Jewish man, and so having that present, understanding that means that you can then look at Islamic texts, look at Christian texts and go, oh, I see that, right? Why is that thing, whatever? It's present through the use of wine in ritual. Friday night, the use of 2 loaves of bread, Friday night. There's a lot of stuff there that we pick out and we go, well, this is beginning to make sense.
From what I'm hearing from what you've said and picking up on what people are saying is that it's about the way that you teach it as much as the fact that it's on the curriculum. We have it on our curriculum, but I think it's about making sure we teach Judaism in its richness, as we try to with all the religions that we're asked to teach. But it's about the complexity, it's about the richness of it, and sometimes it's about teaching it, doing a small bit well, rather than thinking, right, there's Abraham, Moses, Noah, and trying to go through this and actually going, okay, let's spend the whole, and we only have a lesson on the Torah. How can you really teach the Torah, which is the centrality of the life, in one lesson? But that's our task. Those of us who are the REDs, that's our challenge. Yeah. But we try our best. Those of us who teach Judaism, but I think it is that thing about. Don't dumb these religions down, any religion. Try and when you do teach about it, teach it in its richness. And kids understand richness. Kids understand complexity, and not trying to skirt over.
Once we tap into more about Judaism in terms of it as an ethnic religion in school, the kids suddenly get a lot more, because they quite often say to me, but you're not doing that or that they've learned in RE. They go, where's your kippah? Why is your head not covered? Why is whatever that they come out with sometimes? And I go, because I'm not an Orthodox Jew. And they go, oh, okay, so you're a Reform. And I go, well, yes, but, and then we discussed that actually you can be an atheist and be Jewish. You can, and going into those things, again, opens up so much to those conversations about, when you then look on the news and you go, how is that celebrity Jewish? I don't see what's Jewish about them. Just because they've never mentioned it in their work, they don't have to. And some of the ones that they always, the one that I think it was a student talking about Troye Sivan the other day. And they're like, he can't be. I'm like, why can't he be? And it's purely because they've connected Judaism to the people in the hats who go and do that thing, rather than, a pop singer who's, running around topless or whatever he's doing, And but that's what the kids are seeing, and that complete sort of shift for them. And then I go, well, Daniel Radcliffe was Jewish, and they go, what, Harry Potter? How could he be Jewish if it's magic? And, all of these things that they just don't see until you open their eyes to.
We have a question from Paul. Paul, would you like to ask?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating hearing what you're sharing, and also I think it in many respects, one of the things that I found both in teaching secondary education, also when I go into schools and I'm teaching from a Christian perspective, is that within the school communities that we're sort of working alongside and supporting, and in one of the things that I'm just so aware of is that is that religion as a subject that's taught is important, but actually the communities that we're within are faith communities. They're multi-faith communities, these schools, and in many respects, the way to that appreciation of difference and in faith and appreciating and community cohesion is in celebrating those faiths more and sharing, and nothing better than the children sharing. And so I'm really encouraged, going back to the sort of the stuff at Windsor Girls' School, where Shadia is sort of encouraging people to come together of all faiths and to talk in big questions about their faith. In this case, big questions, when I go in, it has a Christian focus. It doesn't always. It depends on who's visiting, and within that, we look at how that question relates to people of different faiths and how also it relates to Christianity, and I think those sorts of opportunities will make a significant difference to many of the things that we're talking about. But sadly, not all schools embrace that openness of sharing of faith because of concern of what it might lead to. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, because that is one of the objectives of this group, isn't it? That people sitting around the table get into schools and do all these things. Ela, a quick question from you, and then we really must move on.
It's something that Dale's brought up and he's passionate about, and it's very similar in Hinduism. In Hinduism, you are born a Hindu, you can practice Hinduism, but if I'm right, and this is what I was told, that you're born a Hindu, but you can practice Hinduism, but you can't actually become a Hindu. It's a birthright. And I think is that what you're trying to say, Dale, as well?
Yeah, in some ways. It's slightly different in Judaism in that there is conversion. So you're more than welcome to convert to Judaism. We don't go out and evangelize and try and get people to become Jewish. But if people come and want to convert, then we go through a very rigorous education process of what you're joining, becoming part of, to make sure people are aware. So, and once you've converted, once you've completed that process, you are as much a Jew as anyone born a Jew. So there is that difference. But
I hate to cut people off, but Margaret, you had a question or comment?
Just very quickly. We've had reference to the mitzvah day here, isn't it? And I just wondered if Dale could explain what that is, because I think, yes, it's a sort of ethnocentric religion, but it's very much in the community, and Jews look outward. Yes. And that, I mean, I don't know if everybody saw that, but that all ties up with the mitzvah day and community. And here you've got the English for Ukrainians. Just to clarify.
You do one sentence.
Yes. Mitzvah Day is an international project of good deeds for your local communities. So we had knitting for the homeless, we had cooking in the kitchens, we had people going out and grave cleaning, people visiting care homes, people making cards for children in hospitals, having heart transplants. So lots of different forms of good deeds. There was even a WWF, I'm not too sure how, but looking at environmental climate change and whale spotting on satellites. So there's loads of different, but how can you help your community? And that's what it's about. And we do it year round, but Mitzvah Day is an international program. I used to work on it when I lived in Poland as well. And it's very much a charity program.
Finally, Rajneesh, do you have a question?
You're on mute.
Yes. It's not a question. I think it's very fascinating hearing what our colleague from a Jewish background is talking about. I mean, I spent a lot of 5 years in a lot of round tables, a lot of meetings really. And we all discuss all these things. And last year I was invited by Jewish organization to visit Poland and Austria for March of the Living, really. We were sitting together and other things. And don't take it personally, really, because when we are minority here, everyone wishes that their religion need to be taught in a proper way. But the desire need to come from each and every community, really, because over there, when we were sitting about and we were discussing about our faith, I think that knowledge of my faith, I can only relate to knowledge of my Hinduism among those 6,000 people over there was very little. And knowledge of myself, because I've been wanting to learn, was really that I need to have a desire to learn about it. So it's open up has to be coming from both sides of it, or all sides of it, to understand what it is all about it really. And that is very important. When we are discussing it, it is important to have that kind of information coming from both hands really. I think we will be much more rich if we have a genuine desire to learn about each another.
Yeah, I've got sign up to that. Thank you so much, Rajni. So we really need to move on with the agenda, but what a fascinating discussion if we didn't get anything else done this evening. You know, we've all got something going on in our minds and hearts as a result of that. Thank you, Dale, for sharing in such a passionate way all that you have shared. Seems pretty dry to then go onto the agenda and look at the minutes of the last meeting, but I'll try and shoot through these. I don't know if you've all got sight of them, but okay, it was the 9th of December. It was an online meeting, and we took the opportunity to share the interviews that I made with Barbara and Tom and Laura, who will be joining us shortly. So there's a summary of those interviews that were online. And on page 5, we have the Civic launch of the new syllabus on the agenda, so I won't linger on that. The bottom of page 5. And I think the other actions there are longer term actions for the future. Page 6, there's a question about finance. Did you do that?
Yes, I checked it. It had been paid.
Had been paid. Oh, that's good.
And a new contract is or has been drawn up and sent to by the diocese and sent to RBWM for the next 3 years.
Oh, good.
I was going to ask that because that I checked as well. Well, I spoke to the finance person and it came out because it came out last budget, didn't it? Not this one.
The last one came out.
Yes,
because
spreadsheet.
Clive wanted it paid early so that we were ahead of the game because the money was there and
exactly.
So, yes.
So they will be expecting. So they've asked me, are we expecting another one? So
well,
the answer is yes.
The contract has been sent out.
Okay.
So I expect the diocese is waiting. I mean, I don't get copied in on this, but it needs to be signed and sent back, and then the invoice will be raised. So
yes, is the answer.
Yes, right.
Okay. Thank you for
yes,
that.
there will be.
I'm now moving to page 9. I haven't had a chance to check in the newsletter. Presumably you put the RE Today training in the newsletter, did you?
I expect so. I put all sorts of, yes. If I was sent it, it went in.
Okay, good.
And if it didn't, it can go in the summer.
Good.
So,
bottom of page 9, we'll come to Tom and Maureen as we get to the development plan progress report. And bottom of page 10, that was Lawrence circulating the NASACRE training programme, which we did do, I recall. I don't know whether any councillors did attend the training on the 21st of January. No. Have you managed to get on any training, councillor?
I haven't.
No. It would be good for us to keep our eye open for more training for councillors on SACRE, and I think those are the main action points. So that's fairly painless, I think. Moving on to item 5, membership update. Should have a list of the membership. I don't think Matthew Scott is with us at all, is he, Lawrence?
No.
Okay, I have a feeling that Reverend Matthew Scott from the Baptist Church in Dedworth has come to the end of his time with us, but he hasn't written to say as much. I'm hoping there will be someone from Dedworth Baptist Church who can replace him. I wanted to say a public thank you to him. I need to point out under the Group C teacher representatives that Di Prenderville, who's the head of RE at Desborough College, who served on SACRE for the last 3 years-ish,
something like that,
who's recruited to Desborough to do the most difficult of jobs, which is to reintroduce a subject that had been dropped from the curriculum, and it strikes me he's doing a very good job at that. He has stepped down, so we do have a vacancy for Key Stage 4 representative.
But that may be Shadia now.
But I'm not going to put any pressure on.
That's why I said that may be.
Well, it would be wonderful if it were, but that's up to Shadia to make her own mind up.
Yeah.
And we are still needing another councillor. I don't know what's happening about that. Any news on the councillor front?
If I'm honest, nobody wants to do it.
Well, all I would say is we're very grateful to the two of you that you are here.
I will approach a few of my colleagues and I'll push some arms.
I would far rather have two people like yourselves who are thoroughly engaged with the debate and make positive, constructive comments than anyone who's had their arm twisted. So,
I mean, in the nicest way, sometimes people aren't aware of the outside bodies.
Yeah.
So.
And they may not be aware of what's involved. They may think that this is what it used to be a long time ago, a talking shop where you went to sleep. Shadia?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to see the pro forma for it, the outlines of the duties, and then I'll be able to give you.
I will send it to you. I will send the role of a SACRE member to you.
Yeah, I sent out the
excellent
notes today with the handbook, so you can send those on.
Thank you very much. And so we're moving on to, before I move on, I must just say that you know that I work on behalf of this authority across Berkshire with Anne as a member of the hub, the RE hub, which is just my sneaky way of getting Berkshire back together again, because I would want to, sorry, the SACRE hub, I would want to get them back together again, having been part of Berkshire years ago. And all the SACREs are looking carefully at their constitutions. They're reviewing the way they do things. And I've thought for a long time that there are some aspects of our constitution that need tightening up. I'm not a great crosser of T's and dotter of I's, but I think we need to change, we need to have one or two little amendments to our constitution. I think we need to make very sure, and Lawrence is already on to this, as you'll know, that anyone who has done what the Constitution says, which has served 4 years, is renominated in writing by their sponsoring body, or be that the Maidenhead Synagogue, we've promoted you, Jonathan Romain promoted you and vouched for you, and other colleagues have had the backing of their organisations. And Anne has said that she's happy to re-sponsor me. And in case of teachers, it would be just the head teachers saying, yes, I'm really happy for X to continue to serve. And Lawrence has done a lot of work, I know, sorting out who needs to just make sure that that happens, and I'm one of them. So I'm going to propose that we put a form of words into the Constitution. Lawrence and I will confer over that. And then he will circulate it and say, if you have any comments, could you get back to us, please, within a week or however long, so that we're on to the business of not letting people drift as members, but having them renew their membership of SACRE and hopefully continue to be enthusiastic and have the formal support of their sponsoring body, whether that's a national organisation or a local church or whatever it is. Okay, we're moving on now to item 6, budget update. That's over to you, Helen, please.
So I obviously know it's the end of financial year soon. So I've kind of been chasing a few things. I have submitted as soon as I took over from Clive only probably in the last couple of months, actually directly submitting invoices. So anyone, so I know Churchmead and Charters, I've received invoices from that I've immediately processed. So I really apologise if it hasn't been paid just yet. I chased it again today and was assured that it's going to be paid by the end of the financial year. But it's a bit, it's quite hard work. But I am, doing my part. So be reassured and tell financial people that I have done that. So hopefully that will all get to you as soon as possible. We have an actual spend of 1,619 to date. So there is still more money in the budget.
I know.
And I also chased up today and just to confirm that if there is some supply costs which want that can be put through as soon as possible, I will forward them and they will come out of this budget, even if the date for that teacher swap is in a couple of months' time.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you don't lose out on this money. So if that, I know it was really good for the secondary, you said that was really good.
Well, you can say what you want to say about your partnership day. I've labelled them partnership days because it just seems self-evident. The great news is that after masses and masses of endeavour, Rachel and Laura have actually found a date to meet, which is the 25th of this month. I emailed Clive this morning and said, could we have that money, to meet your deadline? And he said, yes. So you're sending the finance officer's invoice direct to Clive. He said he will pay for it. But if what you're saying is we've got a little bit more time.
Well, I mean, in terms of a little bit more time, it's like a couple of weeks, but not any more than that. But if people can get them to
but they could be paid in advance of the partnership day.
I think that's the message. Yes, that get the invoices in, even if the partnership day is going to be. Yeah.
So bear that in mind. Would you, if you wanted part 2, second day,
follow-up
if
day,
you were allowed follow-up day. Or another day, Rachel.
Get the date.
Get another
booked
day
to
for
an
Laura to
invoice
come to
for it.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get these in. I want the money as much spent as possible. And thank you so much, Helen, for being the go-between and taking these things through.
I feel bad because it's, I haven't worked for a local authority for long, but it seems like you have to go through so many hoops to try. And so I know it does take time, but it is, I will chase it and make sure I speak to the right people. And they did, I don't suppose and what if it will be a similar amount that
it will be more,
much more, because they did ask me if you knew.
I think currently the day rate the diocese has been charging for me is 400. It's going to go up to 500, which is still a huge saving on what it's gone up to for the schools, because it's 675 for the schools. So if a 3-year contract is taken out, it's 500 a day rather than 400. And I'm really sorry.
So
I don't get it, and Katie won't get it.
That's the charge that will come.
The charge that will come. So it's 5.5 days at 500 a day.
So my message to you, Rachel, is can you get your second day in fixed with Laura, and we can squeeze that one in? Could we find a day at all, Shazia, for you and Laura to meet? I know you're meeting after school, but that seems like the thin end of the wedge after a day in the classroom. I'd just love you to have some quality time together in one another's schools.
Nurse not there.
Oh, she's left. Oh, well, I've said it.
Yes, it's because of Ramadan, which is probably also why we do not have SACRE.
Okay. Any more to say on the budget, Helen?
No.
Okay.
I know it's scintillating. Okay. I think that's everything.
Thank you very much.
And just a point of order, about the training, are they recorded so we can actually go back and view them? Or
some of them are on the NASACRE website. If you've got the NASACRE training login details,
that would be good. You could go back to the governor training at a time that's convenient to you.
Yes, the training for Group D members. It should be there. It should be on the website. I have a NASACRE meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. I have to be honest, I don't know what the password is for the training now.
If I could get the details by email.
As soon as I can work out, I'll email the clerk tomorrow and find out what.
That would be really good.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Unless you're aware that we've had them, Lawrence, the login details.
There is all circulating NASACRE login details, which unless they change, I'm assuming they.
Could you just recirculate them if you've got them?
Sure, yeah.
Because that's got to be quicker than me emailing the clerk and waiting for a reply.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.
That's great. Lovely. Thanks for that suggestion. Very positive suggestion. Okay, on to item 7, the development plan. You can see for yourself where we're going with this. Some things won't ever get done because they can't be done, which is my fault. Shouldn't write a development plan where you can't do the things. But now and again, one has aspirations to do things. I think there's been some movement forward, and the major move really is around page 3 of the development plan, which is page 17 of your agenda, and it's to do with the audit tool, which for Shadia is just to explain that, it's basically the RE quality mark that Tom and I had this conversation eons ago.
Shadia's seen it because she was at the network meeting in the autumn term where we actually looked at it, and you and I worked together on bits of it, didn't we?
Yeah, it's a fascinating document and it's really, really very useful. Recently I attended an inset with the other schools in the Multi-Academy Trust, that Windsor Learning Partnership. And as the only secondary representative, and obviously, you know, that there will be more, it was a very interesting tool for all of us to be able to use, from primary to middle schools and to upper schools, to be able to do an audit and to establish an agreed alignment, because this is what Academy Trusts need, so that we are not overlapping when it comes onto material, and we're not missing things out. So really, it's a very useful document indeed.
That's good. Well, it sprang out of the REQM success that you had at Churchmead, and then we just cooked up this idea that we might modify it a bit and rejig its format and make it a kind of ongoing formative assessment. And if Laura were here, she'd talk about CPD, how she is the RE lead, is identifying areas that that teachers at First Class Infant School need to be stronger on. And there are all sorts of positives. At the network meeting the other night, which was predominantly primary, but you were there, somebody said something about the continuity issues, I think.
I think it was Shadia, actually.
Was it? Shows my brain, doesn't it? Okay, so we managed to get 2 people visiting one another's schools to spend the day watching and listening and learning and talking together about RE. Did you have a chance to look at the audit tool?
Yes, we did. So this all sprung out from the fact that one of the key roles of SACRE is to monitor the quality of RE in schools. And so over the last few years, we've been talking a lot about that. And then this is what we've come up with, which is on the back of the RE quality mark, the bronze criteria. So the criteria where you get the bronze quality mark comes with a set of criteria which we have adapted, which is what you've seen and worked with, which we've adapted as the audit tool. So what we did is we SACRE, and the first thing I think, and Maureen will second this, is a huge thanks to SACRE for the funding to do this, because the funding just made the whole process much easier and also freed us up for a whole day. And I think when you said that word quality time, that is what you have, not just after school or after work, catching an hour, but actually having the whole day to go in depth. So the days were mirrored, and we had an hour together to talk about curriculum. We introduced each other to our own curriculums, told each other why we did certain things, why we taught that in that particular way, and went through it. It's an opportunity to also share the challenges and the difficulties that different contexts have, and we all had, so it's an honest conversation, honest sort of professional conversation. Then we observed each other on the respective days and gave each other feedback on at least 2, if not 3 lessons. Maureen worked with my member of the RE department and had a whole hour with the other RE teacher. And also observed the other RE teacher at our school. And during the whole day, we also audited each other's departments. And I will, over the course of once I've typed it up, I'll share this with SACRE with Maureen's permission, and you can share mine once, as long as it's nice. And I do think that there's that thing of it is just so fantastic, and I really would encourage if you're a counsellor or a faith leader, to go into the schools. If there are schools that are willing for you to come in and do this, I think that even if you wouldn't necessarily, I know this is for this is minded with an education mindset and a teacher mindset, but actually, you could have a faith representative there as well to sort of be part of the audit. It doesn't need to be exclusively the teacher representatives. But it was just really, I would say it was the best CPD I've ever done, because you're matched with a peer and then you're able to just work together collaboratively. And I would say that it's also going to have a huge impact on probably the quality of RE as well. But it was also good to be able to observe each other and to actually have and so we're sort of monitoring each other and being able to give that constructive feedback. And I really, really valued it, and I just thought it was really great. I hope I would say, there's actually a few things to say.
So you're going to say anything else, or is...
Well, yeah, I mean, so what we do is we RAG rated, so red, amber, green, certain aspects. So just to give you an idea, I don't know if there's a copy in there of what but we can share it for next time, and we maybe go into more detail about the actual audits themselves next time. But the question. So there's 4 strands: learning, so RE, learning, teaching, curriculum, and leadership. And so things like learners are given opportunities to respond and ask deep questions. And, the subject has an effective leader who has a clear intention and rationale for curriculum design, teaching and learning, and communicates this to other subject teachers. So there's very specific, elements to it. But it was a really good day. Of course, this will be shared with SACRE members, and only went last week, and to you. And so, but anyway, Maureen, do you want to say anything?
I'll just echo what Tom said about the usefulness of the day. It was a really wonderful opportunity, because when I joined charter school a year ago, I sort of had a little nosy around different schools in the borough, and I saw that Tom's school was coming out as outstanding from their SIAMS and having the gold quality mark, and I thought, oh, I want to see what they're doing. What makes them so good? And so thanks to Karen, for once I said that, Karen spotted an opportunity and she just went with it. And the funding made it so much easier for us to go and see. So I had a really good day seeing what they do at Churchmead, seeing how they do it in a Christian context in comparison to mine from a non-faith school academic perspective. And I picked up a lot of useful things that I can implement in my school. And I'm hoping that Tom also picked up some things that you could, it was a really good opportunity, and we're looking going forward to use this for moderating, sharing good practice, and it's really something that we could use as a SACRE to sort of monitor the quality, the standard of RE in the borough. So I would recommend it all.
Thank you so much. The great thing about it is that you actually found 2 dates.
Yeah.
And you stuck to them.
We did it.
Yeah.
And you see, Rachel and Laura found a date, but the school took over, didn't it? And there was
We have another one that failed.
Yeah, so there was sickness in school, and so Rachel couldn't go, but you've got another one, and we've now got another opportunity and a little bit longer. Make day 2. Get that in the diary, and let's go for it. Let's get the money to support it, because this is where it leads. And the whole idea, of course, if you know the development plan, is that it would be a way, if schools felt comfortable to do it, of eventually people accepting this as the modus operandi, or like formative assessment of your departments, really, and a way, if they were able to, they felt comfortable in sharing this data with the local authority. Because my big $64,000 question is, how can SACRE find out what's going on in schools? Faith leaders are faith leaders. They may be teachers, like Dale and Barbara, but, they may do vastly different jobs. Yes, we've got GCSE results, but it's too late, an A-level. What's going on in the middle schools? And from your point of view, you need to know what's going on in the middle schools when they transfer to you in the upper schools, and likewise primary into secondary. And you need to know where they're going and what the expectations are after that. So the idea is that, isn't it crazy? I thought in 2024, 25% of schools implement system effectively. What a lot of bunker. That's my wish fulfillment. Not happening.
Would it not be good, on the back of what you just said, to do some cross-phase partnerships as well?
Oh, yeah. Suggest
I would
it.
find that really useful.
Suggest
to
it.
see.
Get back to me and say, I want to do this with whoever. Tom, you might, well, yeah.
Come and join you too.
Exactly. I sit on small chairs.
A middle school on
Yeah, well, it would be good to have a middle school
We've only
person.
got.
Yeah, we did have a middle school person before she defected
Oh, yes, true.
to
sorry.
Buckinghamshire. Anyway, thank you for that spirited feedback and for being so transparent. I think you know, just so thrilled that you got that day. Make it happen.
I don't have a school name.
Be, you know, think outside the box and I'll support you all the way. And if we don't get it out of this year's budget, we'll get it out of next. Great. Don't let don't let the impetus go. Thank you so much. Feedback from schools and school visits. Okay, so I'm going to drop now because my main criteria for a successful meeting is everybody speaks. Okay, Chris, I'm going to drop on you because I know you've been into a school to talk about your faith.
That's right. I went to the Sikh Heritage Girls' School, so East Slough, and I was asked to come in to talk about Buddhism to the school, which it consists of girls from 5 to about 11 or so. And yeah, it's really enjoyable time, able to speak to them. Some really good questions were asked, and then they asked to come along to Taplow Court afterwards, which some of the people who work there spoke to them about what goes on there, which is basically an administrative centre rather than it's not a temple, it's an administrative centre, but they said a little bit about what goes on, and it's really good. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. So who else anybody else been into school? Mike, you're in schools all the time, I'm sure.
Well, actually, I've only been
Quietly.
since the last meeting. I've actually only been in one, which was a primary school outside the borough, I'm afraid. And it was great. I was saying to Tom, actually, it was great because it was a whole day. So 2 year 3 classes in the morning and 2 year 4 classes in the afternoon. And when you've got that amount of time, you know, lots of questions can be asked, lots of things can be discussed. It was brilliant. At the end, I was at one of the classes, one of the year 4s, one of the children said, put a hand up and said, how do you know so many things? And I said, well, it's because I'm old. And then, so this hand was shot up. How old are you? I said 71, and there was this shock. Still standing.
Oh, great. Flying the flag for the elders.
I'm looking forward to going to church meet actually.
Yeah.
2 weeks time.
Charters.
I'm sorry.
And church meet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So the objective here is that we all get kite marked through RE hubs as school speakers. Vicky, have you got that yet?
Yeah, I've got it. No one's asked me to then come in on the back of it, but I've got it. Yeah.
Because right.
I'm advertising RE
I'm
hubs.
utilising you, Vicky.
So there are 6 of us sitting around here who've got the RE hubs kite marking, and that's just a 2-hour training that enables us all to know what we're doing in a consistent way and approach things in a consistent way. And I think we all need it. We're none of us too big-headed to know everything. So the idea is that this group provides an immediate opportunity for schools to get faith leaders into.
Ila's got a hand up.
Ila,
She's
did you
had
want to say
challenges
something?
with RE hub.
Yes, I've got my accreditation finally.
Great. Oh, good.
I tried joining it in January, and somehow on my iPad they wouldn't allow me to join unless I had a business account of Zoom. And the same thing happened in February, and this time I ended up having to use somebody else's laptop and somebody else's another person's Zoom account, and I finally got in, and it was a very good session, a lot to learn and a lot to digest, and that they give you the confidence that whatever you are doing is correct, because sometimes it can be a lonely task when you go into schools and there is nobody else sort of supporting you, and you don't know whether you're doing the right things for the children. And that course actually gave you the confidence that whatever you have been doing has been the right thing to do.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Ela. And I think the Hub's website's actually out of date, because I've got 7 ticks now on our list. 7 SACRE members have gone through the Hub's training and are available, and their names ought to be there so that any school in the borough can make contact with them and invite them in. And
I make it
please,
8 now.
you make it 8. Well, please do. Please.
Karen, sorry, I've asked them not to put my name on the Hub for whatever reason, but mine is basically word of mouth. So
okay, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Paul, you have to.
Hello. Yeah, can I just ask a quick technicality on that? So, as a Church of England minister, if I'm on that list to go into to any school, I just need to be aware that obviously within different parishes, there is a sort of system that the local vicar is the first point of call, and so we'd need to be, pastorally and the way that's done, there'd need to be agreement for that. But I guess also being on the SACRE, that would put me and other ministers that were on the SACRE, I suppose, in a slightly different place. But I'm just bringing for you a slight.
I hear what you're saying. And have you got any comment on that?
Don't you just love the Church of England? I would say that as long as you did contact the local incumbent, if a school invited you or you asked the school to liaise with their local incumbent, then I don't see that there should be a problem. Most incumbents would be happy for someone else to do stuff because it means they don't have to.
Yeah, and just an encouragement on that is that the stuff that's going on at Windsor Girls is across a sort of ecumenical group of ministers and other charities that are involved, and so that's worked really well with those permissions. So I think it would work, but just if somebody said no, then I wouldn't be able to go.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough.
And I suppose if you flagged that up with the school on the initial inquiry, have you spoken to your local minister first? No, could you do so, please? And check that they would be happy for someone else to come in. I think as long as you're upfront about it, most people should, know that the Church of England works within very sort of delimited areas for a variety of reasons.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Paul. Any other school visits anybody's made?
Mine was out of one of my churches in Berkshire, but so it was out of area. But I just wanted to note that the person who asked me said that they had they weren't sure how to teach the incarnation, which is absolutely fine. It's a confusing thing. I was very happy to go in. But they miswrote it as incarceration, which was quite funny.
Oh,
but
school was out of area.
It just sort of, it might just have been AI. Let's face it. But it did leave me with that sort of sense of we need to remember sometimes as faith leaders that we particularly, I think that within the Christian tradition, because we've had so long of it being the mainstream faith of the country, that actually the basic level of knowledge where you don't have specialist RE teachers is really quite low.
That's seriously shocking.
Yeah, it's a bit. So,
how did, just out of interest, how did you deal with that?
We got the school to come to us in classes, and we did a variety of ways of engaged interactive stuff.
And did you manage to manoeuvre the teacher concerned towards the correct word?
I think so, yes. I mean, I just replied in an email that said it correctly, but you don't want to be too,
Yeah, oh well.
If it was a church school and it was in Berkshire, let me know.
Yes.
Seriously.
No, it wasn't, you're all right.
If it were any school in this borough, I would want to know, please.
Yes,
I'm glad it
it's out
wasn't.
of borough.
Just as a postscript, any feedback from schools about how things are, any comments, anything special to say?
I am currently looking through the hub to get a Jewish representative to come in to chat to our year ones in summer one. But things happen and it's not right on my list to do, but it's good to know because we need someone to come in and chat with them.
You might want to talk with Dale.
Yeah.
You might want to talk with Dale because there could well be somebody in the Jewish community here who's been through the RE hubs.
I don't know about
Is
the
available.
hubs, but
You
we-
can't because
we-
you're busy.
Because by
Well,
the
slightly
time,
busy.
but the synagogue here does always do school visits. We have there's a whole school visit team who they constantly have school tours coming through, and there's a whole host of volunteer speakers through the synagogue. And they're always welcome if you want to join here.
So nice though, we brought our school here, I forget
I
him.
don't think we have a budget.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
they,
think we can afford it.
the team is fantastic.
So ideally, for us, it would be a visitor to come in and chat with us at school.
Yeah, talk to
But
Dale.
yeah,
outside
They are
this
very
meeting.
good.
Yeah, use the people you know, the people you're getting to know. Laura, any comments on anything?
No, things are going beautifully. Sorry, I've
Good.
had a bit of a whirlwind day, so. But no,
That's
it's going
good.
really well.
That's good, okay. Anyone else? If not, we'll move swiftly on to item 9, which pretty self-evident. This is my attempt to try and keep everybody up to speed with which schools have been inspected. We haven't had any SIAMS inspections, so you haven't had those full reports. We've just had Churchmead is in the centre again of our attention. And what a wonderful report. Outstanding personal development. Many congratulations to Chris on this. Isn't it lovely? As one pupil, that's interesting. The first line of what's it like to attend this school, one pupil aptly put it, it's a small school with a big heart. How much did you pay them?
A lot.
And then, but for my money, it's the next sentence. Staff and pupils live out the school's values of courage, compassion, and commitment. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, does it? Live out. I mean, if anybody lives out what the school stands for, there's something seriously joined up going on. And very good. Personal development, particular strengths. I just picked out a few things I loved. Exceptional on the penultimate paragraph on page 22. Personal development programs, exceptional. And then a reference to the Culture Day, celebrating difference and diversity. And we know that the way you use us when we come in to do the training day, you march us off into the classroom so that we're talking to different groups of children, representing different faiths. And it's a good opportunity, I'm sure. And the second school is the first school in Windsor, which is Oakfield. And the outcome is basically what it was at the last inspection, which is good. Just some lovely phrases to do with the children knowing the school's values of respect, responsibility and resilience, and then to try their best to model them. That's very sweet. And showing genuine care towards one another. So it seems to me that our schools are doing extremely well, and good on them, and many congratulations, because Ofsted's a nightmare to have to cope with, and to come out with it with such wonderful things that have been said. Well done to you. Moving on swiftly to item 10, GCSE and A-level outcomes.
Yeah.
Now the data that you were circulated with
is real headline data. So there are 2 charts you've been sent. One of them has got coloured bits in the title and says percentage of teaching hours. So these are the results of the school workforce data. You're going to love this, from October 23. So we are talking we are talking lagged data. So what this shows us is it shows us the percentage of time, the percentage of the curriculum hours that are devoted, that are self-reported by the school as being devoted to the teaching of RE. So the main thing to look at really is the percentage of hours in total in the last but one column. I've also put the Ofsted ratings on. I apologise that Charters is missing. I was not given that data by the person who collated the data off the DFE website. This may mean that there is an issue with the DFE website or that she made a mistake. And I'm afraid I didn't spot it soon enough. And my attempts to go back in and find the data for myself have not worked very well. So I hands up, I couldn't unravel it. What is interesting is obviously we know the story behind Desborough. We know that they are moving towards teaching RS at GCSE. So we can see that where in year 11 it says 0% of hours for RS in Desborough. We know that's because currently, or in 23, there wasn't, but there probably will have been in October 24, because the year 10s will have moved up. So, you know, we know that's a work in progress. Be interesting, if Cox Green seems to have very low amount of time devoted to RS, and for some reason First Plat didn't report at all. So as I said, this is self-reported data. So the kind of questions that could be investigated would be to find out where those schools are reporting very low percentages. Is it because sometimes RS is taught as something else? You know, is it called philosophy and ethics, and therefore the person who did the data entry didn't put it in for RE? Well, we don't teach RE because it says philosophy and ethics on the timetable. That kind of, because this is self-reported and we don't know who's putting the information in, it may be the person in the office who's just got the school timetable in front of them and is doing a sort of number crunch on it.
Can I just interject a moment? Helen, have you got anything to add to what Anne's saying, because you have a son?
Yeah, I've got two boys at First Plat Secondary School, and they both do, well, my oldest is just about to do GCSE, and it's up until GCSE, even though the GCSE they take is religious studies, they call it philosophy and religion.
And that's probably why it's not been reported.
And I think even at A level, even though it's religious studies, they still refer to it as philosophy and religion. So I would imagine it's somebody taking that.
And that's exactly the kind of issue that means we need to look at this data, but bear in mind that this is not the whole picture. And therefore that is also the same when we look at the other side. What we have got here, because there was a delay in getting the precise data, because one of the exam boards had made an error of some kind, the revised, finalised data, I believe, was released to the person on NASACRE who does all the number crunching on Thursday last week. So obviously we have not got that data yet. And when I went to the website today, because I know how to get the data, it still isn't available by subject. So it hasn't been broken down yet. So what we've got here is we've got very much headline percentage. And what the columns are, it's the percentage of entries, first of all, at GCSE for full course RE. So we can see that Windsor girls enter 29% for full 0.7% for full course RE, and no one for short course. That's not a surprise. I don't expect, we haven't got many schools doing short course. Well, Churchmead, on the other hand, Church of England school needs to is required by the statement of entitlement to put everybody in for GCSE. So 84% do full course, 11% do short course. So in total, 95% do GCSE.
What is short course worth in terms of GCSE?
Half.
So half.
So half GCSE. And the reason most schools don't do it is because it no longer counts towards the Progress 8.
Right, so it's not showing up in league tables.
It's not showing up in league tables, but this data would pick this up. So you can see that the percentage across the borough, I don't know what Charter's percentage is, and don't know, you probably don't have that off the top of your head, Maureen.
Sorry, to interrupt you. Is this, are you talking, I thought you were looking at some, is this the data?
I've turned over to the other side now.
Okay, so
Sorry.
I have got this. This is the one. I thought you were looking at something different. This is the most recent data that we were talking about, is it? That's just got.
That is just the workforce data.
Okay.
This side is the workforce data, which shows you the time spent on teaching GCSE.
Is this the one, Karen, that you wanted it copied, that you wanted everybody to, because there are copies of it, but
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
So I thought you were looking at, I thought we were looking at something before that, sorry.
No, humble apologies. If you pass that round, people can have a look in their own time.
And this is the one that Clive wanted this to be returned back to him. Because although it is in the public domain, just the sort of this kind of the sensitive nature of it.
I do apologise. We should have had that circulated right at the beginning.
I assume
If you could just have a look at it and then we can collect them in at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, because this isn't validated data.
No, well, the workforce data is self-reported data. It doesn't tell us anything about the quality. It only tells us how many hours or what percentage of the curriculum schools are reporting that they give to RE. And if they don't call it RE, as at first plat, it doesn't get recorded. On the other side of the sheet, probably, is the very headline GCSE data, but it is very, very headline. It's literally just the number of pupils entered, percentage of pupils entered, and the percentage of pupils getting grades 9 to 4. That's all it's showing us. We haven't got anything more detailed at the moment. But it gives us a snapshot in that if we look at the one that's got the blue heading, column N, we can see that only in Churchmead is more than 50% of the cohort being entered for GCSE. So the question we might, and Altwood. So Altwood and Churchmead, the two church schools. So we need to ask what provision is made for those children not doing GCSE. That's the question that comes out of that data for me. And at the moment, because there is no data about, the pass rates of where pupils are doing it are all, the percentages passing 82, 62, 61, that's reasonable. They're good. What we're not seeing, though, is a large number of children being entered for GCSE. So the question SACRE needs to think about is, what are the rest of the children doing? Particularly picking up the questions that Dale was asking. Children who are not doing GCSE RS in years 10 and 11, what RS are they doing? That's a perfect place to put back in Judaism, so that it's taught properly. And that would be something I would be very much in support of, because I think that would give teachers something to teach where there's a gap. So that's really all I wanted to say about that at the moment.
But it's quite a leap from having this tentative reflection on these outcomes to SACRE putting a letter together.
Oh, I'm not.
You know, to say to schools, you know, and I'm an English specialist, so you'd think I could think of a subtle way of making an inquiry, but it's very difficult, isn't it? Because SACRE is not in the habit of communicating with schools in writing, sending letters.
Do the NA have any residual responsibilities for monitoring this? Because obviously my understanding is a statutory requirement for children to do an hour a week still.
Yeah.
The problem with the problem with the LA and all of these schools is, with the exception of Churchmead, they're all academies.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's the academy part of it is always the because they don't have, because obviously there was that issue with the I know Clive was saying about the academies not taking on the syllabus, and I guess that's the area that's difficult. But with borough schools,
My question is, do you have any residual responsibilities with academies, or is that all for the schools commissioners or whatever?
I don't think so.
No, technically I don't think so.
So it begs the question,
so
what power do we have to do anything?
We don't have a power in one sense to do anything, but you know, where we've got these kind of conversations happening and where people go to the secondary RE network meetings that Kylie from Altwood is running, actually having those conversations, you know, if people, you know, if Shadia and Maureen and Tom are attending those network meetings,
They would know, they'd know the
then
answers.
actually being able to have those informal conversations with the other secondary schools to say, you know, what do you do with the children who are not doing GCSE? And then that gets fed back to SACRE and we begin to get an idea. And because it is about finding out.
But it's tricky.
It is tricky
to formalise anything in a letter.
This is why it doesn't.
It's also worth saying, I'm sure everyone around this table knows this, but the percentages as well are the schools that are not putting them for 100% or just shy of are the ones that have it as option subjects. I'm sure everyone's aware of that, but it's because it's one of the options.
Yes,
so
exactly.
therefore you'll only have a class or two classes in schools that have it as an option.
Yeah, so it's no problem that they're not doing it for GCSE, but would be interesting to find out is what they're doing instead.
What's happening?
Where are they doing their statutory RE?
I know that some schools have done drop downs and things like that, but I don't know, you know, they do a drop down day in the summer or something like that, which I'm not a great fan of. I think it's putting RE to the bottom of the heap when you do
But
it.
is that even legal?
Probably
I
not.
thought it's supposed to be 1 hour per week and that's it.
You'd have a challenge getting your 40 hours into one drop down day.
I think it's the equivalent. I think that it would be the equivalent of 1 hour per week. I don't think it's an hour.
No, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be timetabled as an hour a week, but it should work out in Key Stage 4. It should work out to about 40 hours per academic year, which obviously you cannot fit into one drop down day. Not even
a sleepover.
Not even a sleepover. No.
Okay, so
why would SACRE not be allowed to write a letter? I don't
no,
understand.
SACRE would be allowed to
Oh,
write a
yeah.
letter. What I'm saying is, if SACRE isn't in the business of writing letters to schools about RE matters for any other reason, like, you know, if there were loads more hours in the day, I'd be writing to schools. I'd be writing to Chris to congratulate him. As it is, I try and get into as many schools as I can after an Ofsted report, but we're not in the business of writing formal letters to schools. And I would hate SACRE to be perceived as a body that is looking to be aggressive with schools in terms of interrogating why things aren't happening, if it doesn't ever write and say, well done.
It can be done as like a doodle poll or a Google questionnaire. Could you just fill out, you know, what are you up to with your RE provision?
Could do.
I've seen examples of SACREs in my old local authority where I work. They have written to the school I work in to say they're aware of the fact that they're not meeting their statutory obligations. I've seen it happen, but whether this
and what sort of response does the school make to that? It's
they sorted it out.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, perhaps I'm Too soft then.
I don't know, I do.
And my suggestion would be, if we can wait until we have the validated data, what we might be able to do is to write to those schools that have got really good GCSE passes and pass rates and say, congratulations on, your 9 to 4 outcomes. However, we do notice that only 30% of your pupils enter. Could you tell us what the other people, we think your results are brilliant. We'd be really interested to know what provision, because we are seeking to support other schools, what provision are you making for those who are not entered? And kind of
it's a very constructive suggestion. I just wish there were 48 hours in every day, and I don't teach anymore, but the hours I spend on SACRE work, you wouldn't believe. So it's one of those things that I could aspire to do that and maybe write that into the next development plan.
Yeah. And, it may be something that SACRE moves towards doing. And I suppose the once a kind of templatey letter was written, it
becomes
probably wouldn't take that long to populate it with the specifics. And we've not got a huge number of schools.
Could you gather some information from network meetings? Could that be a start point?
Well, it could, except that the secondaries on the whole don't attend the network meetings that I've been running, partly because Kylie runs separate secondary network meetings.
We have a question from Katie.
Comment.
No, it was just a thought really. Is it worth just doing a bit of a reminder about the statement of entitlement, sort of at the end of the summer term?
It doesn't apply to the non-church schools. It doesn't apply to the community schools.
Right. But
the legal position, we could.
That's what I'm saying, and I think really is it just worth saying to everybody if there is some communication from the local authority that just says this is what should be happening in your school, do it before the end of this year, so that in September they've got time to think about it before September.
Could be like a briefing document on your statutory duties. So
Something like that just reminds people what the expectations are, because I think there is a turnover of staff, and I think where there's a turnover of staff, things get missed.
Yeah, we could write something to go in the summer newsletter, Katie, which I think you and I probably need to do
If you
together.
could make a note of that, Katie, that would be really good.
Yeah, I've written it down as well.
I think Vicky was next.
I was just thinking that if you're going to go the letter route, that to say, statutory requirement, SACRE is committed to helping you in this and can signpost you towards kite marked, it's a way of making an offer and not just
thank you. I think Paul wanted to say something too.
I just think that the other thing, taking into account what we said earlier on about the quality of the diet that people are getting in RE, is that if schools are already struggling to staff subjects like English and maths, I'm just a bit concerned that with something like this, they end up shoehorning RE in some way into with maybe a member of staff that doesn't know about faith, doesn't have time to look into the subject they're teaching, and then actually I wonder if we're doing ourselves a disservice. I just wonder whether, and I've heard what you've said about the time, but for example, I could go into the 5 schools definitely in Dedworth here and have a chat with the heads of RE specifically about how they're teaching RE in each of those places. And I know that in many cases already, and feed that back to the SACRE. And I wonder whether getting alongside people and having that conversation is going to be far more productive, because then we're not then just sending a letter out to everybody, but we can then take into account the context they're in before we make
I couldn't agree more. I feel very, very much more in sympathy with that kind of approach, and where you've got knowledge, and you clearly have, and that's one of the reasons why we want you in this group, because you've got that knowledge, you represent that community. then, you know, we should be sharing that. I think that's a much more natural way of doing it.
Yeah.
I'd love to continue this discussion, but we've got to be out by 7 o'clock on the nail tonight. Could I ask you please to send those papers back up to the end? So
Mine's
that
my own
we,
printout.
yeah, so that we abide by Clive's wishes to return them to the local authority. And do thank him, please, for, because he actually printed them for me this morning.
They were waiting for me in an envelope when I arrived.
No, he's a good man. He's a good man. Okay. Cracking on and very, very swiftly, please. Training attended, network meetings, primary and secondary, and just say something about what you've been doing in the network meetings.
What have I been
since
doing in the
December?
network meeting since December? We had a network meeting last week, yes, on the approach to non-religious worldviews in the new syllabus.
And
Anthony
was it,
came
wasn't he?
and he was, yeah, he's had to go, I think, but he was, he answered lots of questions, and the teachers, I think, went away with a much greater understanding of what we mean by non-religious worldviews and why it is important that we need to teach them, as well as teaching about religion. And so, you know, one of the things I talked about was actually how hard it is to say whether religion makes a difference in people's lives if we don't know what a life without religion looks like. You know, you can't answer a question about, you know, do religious people show more care for the world or something, not that that's on our syllabus, if actually you don't know what non-religious people think about the world. So teachers went away, I think, with a much greater understanding.
Comment, Laura?
Yeah, agreed. It was a really good session, and it was nice to have some of that on kind of developing us professionally, but then also having time to network. It was a really nice balance.
Yeah, I think it was.
Shadia, did you find it useful?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very fascinating.
One of those cross-phase topics, wasn't it? And there was a bit of time on the audit tool as well.
Yeah.
And you were able to talk about that, which is great.
Yeah.
Any other training people have been on? I think I circulated the SEAF. Just remind me what it stands for. Southeast Faith.
Oh, I can't, Southeast Faith Forum.
Faith Forum,
Faith
yeah.
Forum. Yes.
I circulated that, and some of us went to the session on Hinduism on January the 9th, which was run by the person responsible for the Hindu faith at Eton College, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. She's the Hindu chaplain.
It was amazing.
She was great.
I must watch it again, and if anybody would like to watch it, I'm sure there's a link back to the recording. Because you can't take it all in the time she was speaking. She had so much to say, and so profound. It was wonderful. And if anybody's got time, I'll circulate the next one that's coming up. I think it's later this month, the next scene.
Just to say, Karen, as well, that I'm doing the kite mark. So I did the kite mark as a person, but you can also have a kite mark for your building.
Yeah, for your place.
So so I'm doing that next, but just for people to be aware that there's that side of it as well.
Great. Well, I can see us having a little slot on the newsletter, Katie, next time round, to just showcase, you know, what we're doing and what we're aspiring to do, and lead people towards the links to find us.
Yep.
And if not us, through us to other people.
Yeah, I went on the hub training.
Great.
Last Thursday, so.
Did you find that useful?
For schools. Oh, it really was useful, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you're somebody who's trained to death, aren't you? Because you do all this voluntary work.
Yeah, true.
Well, you're Mr.
Yes.
Safeguarding.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. It's really good training. Good. Okay. Agreed syllabus launch. Time for you just to say something short about that. Anne,
Yes,
please.
very short. We have got 161 teachers from across the whole of the Berkshire area attending the syllabus training event. We are slightly rebadging it. I'm not going to say why, but we are slightly rebadging it. It is going to be the syllabus training event. It's at the Crown Plaza Hotel. We have 161 people attending. That's all I'm going to say.
And going to be all of our
exhausting.
quota taken up.
All of our quota
this
taken
borough.
up for this borough, yes. Yes,
That's good. I think there'll be a lot of energy in that room.
I think so.
How many people from the SACRE is that?
That would have been 26, because
Yeah,
there were
we
26 places per local authority.
And moving on to item 13, we have made good progress. And again, it's feels like the church meet show. Actually, tonight, it just seemed a good
Because I can't say
idea.
no, Karen.
So Chris has very kindly
See, you'll get to
agreed
see me again, Tom.
to host us.
I'm lost.
And that's going to happen on the 12th of June between 5 and 7 o'clock. And it's going to be an event for local dignitaries. Am I right in thinking that we don't know who the mayor is yet?
Probably Grant, but no, we don't know officially until the meeting in May.
All right. Okay, so anyway, whoever the mayor is, they will be duly invited. I'm working with Alison Singleton.
So it needs to be in their diary, even though they don't know who they are.
Who's the mayor's secretary, and she has been conferring with me, and we did invite, I don't know whether this should be written down, we did invite the king. I thought, well, why not, let's go to the top. I know he's probably busy, but we haven't got the king, but we have got the Vice Lord Lieutenant Graham Barker, who has agreed, because the chap, his senior, is coming to the Berkshire training.
Yes.
So those two will be. So I've got to fill in a form all to do with the protocols. It'll be a first for me, how you address people and who's priority to who, all very frightening. But anyhow, we've got a lovely launch. I'm sure it will be a lovely evening. And
He's Karen, he's lovely. He's absolutely lovely.
That's good. Well, as far as I'm concerned, everybody on SACRE is invited. Thank you, Ela, for that vote. Okay. The annual report is now out. It was lacking one or two things. Actually, it's a really good thing, Shadia, for you to read. I'll send it to you. It's a good overview, clearly, of everything that is going on, as far as we know. Anne works very hard to produce it. I think it's very comprehensive. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it, but it's quite a useful document, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. It is also a legal requirement that we produce one.
Yeah, and you'll notice as well that there are there's some of the data from 2023. There's stuff to do with attendance, which is really important.
All of this is required.
Yeah.
So NASACRE have a template that we have to do.
Yeah. So I hope that's all acceptable to you. And the newsletter as well has come out. The spring term newsletter, which I always think, I don't know if you get a chance to see it. Does it come to you?
Yes, everybody should have been sent it at the beginning of the year when it went out to schools.
Is it useful?
Yeah, it's always really helpful.
I'm always very complimentary about it because I think it's just so practical. So many links to this, that, and the other website that if I were a hard-pressed teacher of RE or head of RE, I'd be very glad to have that immediate contact with these places. So, a formal thank you, Anne, to all the hours that you have put in doing these things behind the scenes, getting them all to fit on the page, thinking of a different angle.
And then sending them to Karen to be proofread.
I'm the boring.
So
person
when she said earlier she doesn't like dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Unless
unless it's in punctuation and my newsletter.
Well, you know that. Yeah. Once an English teacher, always an English teacher. It's terrible.
Do you use a red pen or a green pen?
And some of the black pen for me. But some of one of the most difficult things I ever did was have to sit in the back of a classroom and watch a teacher teach children the wrong spelling. Oh, God. I should have intervened really, but I couldn't bring it upon myself. I waited until the end, but if you think what responsibility we have as educators, you introduce a word and it's the wrong word, or you introduce a spelling and it's downright wrong. You know, it's just unforgivable, really. If teachers don't know how to spell, they should blooming well look the word up before they start the lesson. Write a few notes for themselves. Or get it written on the board, with, you know, the whiteboard or whatever.
Even worse when the children or the pupils actually have to correct the teachers.
Oh.
Unless that's the deliberate aim.
Unless it's in mathematics. Unless it's in
well,
mathematics. That's the case.
Some teachers will, of course, plead that that's the case. Okay, key items from NASACRE, Anne, over to you.
Right. There will be a briefing coming out from NASACRE in the next couple of days. We have just managed to finish it. I can give you two important headlines. The first is that basically NASACRE will be a charitable incorporated organisation. The Charity Commission have finally granted us legal status. So NASACRE now formally exists, called NASACRE, and there'll be more information about that in the briefing. The other important thing is that the date and venue for the conference are fixed. The information about that will all be in the briefing as well. But you, as a SACRE, need to choose your reps for that. And because this venue is both bigger and cheaper, we are able to have many more people. So I think, if I am correct, SACREs can send up to 5 people now. Let me just
be lovely,
find the version I was sent of the thing today. No, it's disappeared out of my inbox. Lovely.
Where is it?
It is
It's East London,
it's in East London. It's at the Town Hall in
19th of May,
Stratford, 19th of May. So I think you're on the Elizabeth line here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, in which case you get on the Elizabeth line and you go whoosh and you get off at the other end.
Well,
more or
it's
less.
usually a very stimulating day, isn't
Yeah.
it, Barbara?
And I think you can send something like 5 delegates for about £400. It's normally £100 per delegate, but I think if you do, it's something like that. It will all be on the briefing that comes out in the next 48 hours. So probably that might be another way to spend money up front.
Yeah.
If you quickly, as soon as the briefing comes out, have an email exchange around the group, and
so it looks like we could have another 3.
you could probably have another 3. What would be really nice would actually, if it were possible, to have somebody from each of the different groups. So one from A, one from B, one from C, one from D, because that way you get the different perspectives on the event. I will be there, providing Bracknell Forest complete my nomination to be a SACRE member.
Yeah.
So as of April, I should be a member of Bracknell Forest rather than their advisor.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
That's the main stuff.
We need to talk, Katie. Any other business? Maureen, I wrote a note to myself when we were online in December's SACRE meeting that you might be wanting to say something about the RE Discovery Day, or
We've got that coming up in the summer term, and that is our drop-down day, which I know does not go down well with some people. But because we don't offer core RE, we do a drop-down day, and I will be sort of inviting different people to present. We have a range of speakers from different faiths, and from humanism as well, so non-religious and religious groups. So that is coming up, and that's on the cards.
That's good. Any other business from anyone else? Anyone else like to raise anything? If not, then the dates of the future meetings are down there, 23rd of June, 22nd of September. My big question is, where next?
I had a point about some of the meeting dates. Just one of those is on Rosh Hashanah. I've got from the board of deputies the whole Jewish calendar for the year. So I don't know who that would be helpful to have in terms of scheduling them.
I would have
Yeah,
thought to
I
Lawrence.
mean, it's Lawrence,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But just as one to.
Because
flag up.
it realised when in conversations with Sheila, it was discovered that that was no longer available, which was one of the
It
reasons
still
why.
exists, it's still
Yeah,
on board of
but
deputies,
it wasn't.
Yeah. but
Which of
just-
those dates down?
22nd September is Erev Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah,
Lawrence, could you take that back to
Sorry.
whoever
democratic.
in democratic
Services.
services and could you, if you just explain that would mean that Dale isn't able to attend? Whether
it's worth changing the whole meeting, because like, you know, move the day,
Yeah.
someone else.
Well, I know that last Rosh Hashanah they had to move one, I think it was either Reading or Wokingham.
Reading.
Stepped in there.
Yeah.
So just as a one to raise early, so we
Yes,
don't get to that point where they
But
cancel it the
that's
day
exactly, and that was why it became an issue in those days, because the dates had been set a year in advance and nobody had flagged them up before. So, yeah,
Yes, we can talk outside this meeting. about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we can talk about it.
yeah.
Okay.
I think there are particular, there are some, I mean, like, for example, I've got a SACRE meeting on Wednesday, which is Ash Wednesday, but it being Ash Wednesday does not stop me as a Christian attending because of the way that Jewish festivals operate from sundown to sundown.
That's exactly the issue. It's the error of office.
It becomes much more difficult to accommodate Jewish delegates around festivals than it does most other religious groups.
Okay, could I ask that, I think everybody's got my email address, could I ask you to drop me a line and make a suggestion of where you would like the next SACRE meeting to be held, what your preferential fate would be, and then I can approach the representative and ask if it's convenient and possible. So have a think, particularly the schools, where do you want to go next in June? Now, at this point, isn't this timing amazing? 5 minutes to the end of the meeting. Don't go away. I just have a little duty to perform.
I'm going to die, yeah.
I think we would be so remiss. If we did not say thank you in the nicest possible way, with all the freshness and joy and life of the spring, representing your new life. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. You need your hand underneath. I've got this in the car without having it over, so.
Yeah. I will
Thank you so
wait
much,
somewhere in mind.
Everything you've done, there is a card here and it hasn't gone anywhere because it's not been possible to do it, but it could go around people coming out for a meal. And
but anybody who'd like to sign it,
yeah,
start passing it around.
Thank you so much for.
Let me just say, you have been a joy to work with as a SACRE.
Anne doesn't say that for many SACREs, I can tell you.
Not fan of the others.
No, seriously, we have had robust discussions, and, you know, but it has always been positive, it has always been supportive. And I really do thank you for that, because actually that is the way to get things done and to make a change. That positive approach of, you know, that's not quite, could we do it? It really helps, and I do appreciate it, and I will miss you all.
Not very much, but.
No, I will miss you all. What I will not miss is the piles and piles of work that actually has come with SACRE over the last 18 months, 2 years, as we've done the syllabus review. It has been really hard work, and the hours and the sleepless nights have not actually done me any favours. So part of why it's time to stop. And I'm really hoping that the curriculum and assessment review will put RE into the national curriculum and we won't have to do this again. But we'll see. But thank you all, and thank you all for welcoming me to what is not my local SACRE, because I live in Bracknell. Sorry. But thank you. And Katie will do a sterling job with you, because Katie has been an advisor for quite a while. She's a former head teacher, and she's already reading everything under the sun there is to read about religious education. So everybody keeps saying I have big shoes to fill. No, I don't. I take size 3. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. And more than. So I wish you all the best, and I will be keeping in touch with Karen and Barbara and Tom and anybody else who wants to keep in touch. Just let me know.
And we really look forward to welcoming you, Katie, to working with us. And I'm pleased it's been such a sparky meeting, so that you know you get the right impression about us.
Thank you very much. That's very kind.
And so, almost bang on 7 o'clock, Dale. We said we would be moving on. And for those of us who are going to have a meal together, I think you know where you're going. So when did you take? What time? Woodhouse. Now, that's straight after. Yeah. Dale.